Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. In today's video, I'm going to be auditing a massive collection, the biggest collection that I ever bought. I spent $54,000 on, I believe it was 59 slabs, so pretty high average, nearly $1,000 per card. I'm gonna get right to the cards. No need to see Dan up close and personal. Let's look at the cards. I'm gonna talk through common questions that I get about how the process of selling to me goes, about what my thinking is on what I'm buying, why I'm buying it. So for my entire duration on YouTube, a little over 3 years now, I have had in my description, always buying collections, feel free to reach out. The types of collections that I've bought have ebbed and flowed over the years. eBay Vault, I just made a video a couple weeks ago that I am losing the eBay Vault, losing those 0% selling fees, theoretical future 3% buyer's premium. Very cheap frictional cost for selling stuff. Mind you, these first 6 cards I show you, these are some of the less liquid, less obviously high demand, like very cool lotto cards. I would be in trouble with Ernesto if I were to say that these were the worst ones of the collection. But definitely the oldest, definitely some of the oldest, definitely some of the more niche, less modern, less liquid. But yeah, some great cards to start there. I believe it was like 5,000 copies or 5,250 copies. I forget exactly how many copies of the e-lotteries were made. We're going to jump right into some of the uber liquid things that I've sold. For consigners, for clients, for some of my own. I actually bought a set of these from the Bulba store. Most of them are gone. These things are super liquid. I mean, you put clothes on Pikachu, especially those of other Nintendo IPs or other Pokemon, as we'll see in a little bit here. It's just liquidity. How these will fare long term, the pops, all that, I don't really know. Like I made a video last week talking about investing in modern Pokemon and this and that. For some definitions of investing, buying with intent to sell for more money down the line. I guess these were bought as an investment with intent to get them ingested into the eBay vault and sold 2 weeks later. So this is a 2-week investment. These will all be for sale. I'm recording this actually on April 17th. And let's go back to what I talked about in this video. I'm going to be all over the place, but I'm going to kind of show the cards. Sometimes I'm going to talk a little bit of the history of the cards. Sometimes I'm going to be talking about like how the deal went. So I had an individual reach out to me. I'm now recording this on April 17th. I had an individual reach out to me. Let me pull up my Discord. So via Discord DMs, feel free to DM me on Discord. Feel free to email me, reach out to me on Instagram. Send me a snail mail letter to my P.O. box. However you want to reach out to me, feel free to reach out to me if you have collections. Just like I mentioned last week in my video, ultra modern sealed, that is something that I'm frequently buying. Raw, highly liquid, higher value cards, I don't really want to be buying bulk. I don't want to buy 100,000 commons and uncommons. I don't want to buy, it's mostly modern sealed at 80+%. It's mostly higher end slabs at 80+%. And well, pending, we'll see how that all goes. Whatever the new landscape will be post eBay Vault, that 80% plus might have to drift down slightly depending on the slab value, depending on the liquidity too. Some people will advertise like a universal, I pay X%, and then until you show them something, oh well, I can't actually do that percent on that. I do a low percent on that. I generally try to say ranges just because depending on very big factor. What is the value? If the frictional fees, like let me find a card around me. I don't have one handy. I guess right here. This card sells for about 80 bucks. The frictional fees, $5 shipping, is a lot bigger percentage-wise of a card like that than a card that's $200 or a card that's $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So obviously, just inherently, by the nature of it, the frictional fees of shipping, the amount of time it takes to ship, they're the same cost regardless of the slab. So the higher value it is, the higher percent you can generally get, but you're also risking more capital, liquidity, how many sold in the past week, month, year. These are all factors. But yeah, let me continue on where I was going. So I had an individual reach out on April 15th. I'm not in a desperate spot to sell. I'm looking out to potentially sell some stuff. So April 15th, they messaged me. I'm interested in potentially selling some stuff. They sent me a couple photos. They sent me a couple spreadsheets. And 2 days later, so how the process went, they said, I have this stuff. I said, hey, I really like this stuff. Do you have a price in mind? They did not have a price in mind, but I said that usually what I do, I just pay some percentage of comps. Like me looking at this, I'm like, okay, Pikachu is wearing clothes, Eevee's wearing clothes. We're talking liquid here. We're talking liquidity. I've sold a lot of these same exact cards in the past 3 to 6 months on behalf of myself, on behalf of consigners. So I'm very comfortable with like how reasonably well I could sell these at low list, last sold, in that vicinity. So yeah, they hit me with a list. They came up with their own number, and you could set 5 people on the task of, here are the cards, give me the comps, give me what market value is. I've made a video before, if I remember, I'll link it, on the fact that there's no market value. The more liquid, the more frequently it sells, the closer you are to cards having a true market value. But still, all there are data points. So he looked up the data points and he came up with his own number. I looked up the data points. I came up with my own number. Very close. I mean, you could task 5 individuals of comping cards, and I used alt for the last sold. Someone might use eBay. Someone might use PWCC, Heritage, Golden, depending on the items that you're looking at. And there will be a range. Like, you task 5 of the biggest experts in the industry, in the hobby, to comp out a collection. It's not going to be exact. But we were very close, and we ended up using just a percentage of my number. So the way that I did it, I just took the number, and I have it right here in front of me. These comped out at $66,543 on last sold via alt. Some of the I was not getting too picky on, like, okay, alt last sold was 400 on this card, and there's a low list buy it now at 380. Because I know that the buy it now auction spread on a lot of these cards is fairly tight, because I know that they transact relatively frequently. I mean, literally the full art Mario Pikachu, I've probably sold 3 of my own this year, and I've probably sold 3 on behalf of consigners this year. So I sold 6 in like 3 months. So, I mean, relative to some cards, I guess that's a lot. Relative to some cards, that's not a lot. That's just my contribution to the market. Like, I know James, and Emporium has sold some. I know that others have sold on PWCC. So, when I know that the buy it now last auction like spread is going to be fairly tight, I just took last sold indiscriminately, and I didn't dive too deep. If I was buying WotC, if I was buying mid-era, there might be instances where the last comp, I mean, I've bought collections before where the last comp was literally 3 years prior. If there was a comp from 2021 for 10 grand on a card that hadn't sold since, that was pop 3, I would need to think more about that, right? I couldn't just flatly say 80% on everything. But what I ended up doing here, I started at 80%, so 80% was like my basis. If it was a month ago, I probably would have offered close to 85, 90%. Honestly, I was buying from the Bulba store. I don't remember the exact percentage, the exact number that I paid, but I ended up paying something like pretty close to 90 to 95% probably on that full art Pikachu set. This is a great card I've never owned before. I mean, all these cards are great cards, some of which I've never owned before, but this one I sold on consignment. Late last year, around the 10K figure. It was actually one of my top 5 sales of last year. I made that short that showed off. I still need to make a short devoted solely to it, but I had the single highest on behalf of Zach Jim at Pokemon. I had the single highest sale on eBay last year. Thank you, James, the Emporium, for letting me know. He found an article that linked that showed that $217,500 was the PSA 10 base first Charizard late last year. This card, though, also cracked my top 5. I believe this might have been like 5th at maybe 11,000, somewhere in that vicinity. But yeah, I think the last comp was like 9K for this, so 80% of that, I paid approximately $7,200. One thing that I wanted to cover, too, in this video. Some people will hear 80% and, oh man, Dan's paying 0% in the eBay vault. Dan is ripping this guy off. And that person, that individual is an adult. They came to me, hey, I've got these cards. Do you want to buy them? So I started at 80% last sold. He did 15 minutes worth of work. I did 15 minutes worth of work, and we came to a number. Here's the little V versus VMAX segment. This thing's done big things the past couple weeks, being mentioned in some large creator videos. I think PokeRev and then several other people made videos about it too. But V versus VMAX. What have you got in the comments below? Let me know. But yeah. 66,543 is what these 59 cards totaled to. 53,234.40 is what it comes out to at 80%. I rounded up slightly from there. We like round numbers, monkey brain. $54,000. That works out to 81.15%. So I also included, I have insurance that fully covers the total value of all this stuff if it were lost on the way to me. Due to the value, due to the fact that the eBay vault is a time-sensitive situation, I want to get it in quickly. I sent them for $110, I think it was. Figured $2 a card, not too bad. So I paid an additional $2 a card when I'm buying $1,000 cards, approximately each on average. I got it expedited to me. So Monday on April 15th, tax day, we were talking about this collection. I pitched my offer of $54,000 and they accepted. I sent them a $110 prepaid envelope. They put it in the mail on the 16th. I'm recording this on the 17th. I know you're seeing like 10 days later. I wanted to time it closer to when these cards will go live in the eBay vault. I am taking a little bit of risk here. This is one thing that I wanted to cover that I started towards, and then I went elsewhere. The seller has their money, and all the risk is gone. All the risk is in my hands. People will say, people will talk. There will be somebody mad in my comments, I'm sure, taking advantage of sellers, taking advantage of my viewers, whatever. As an adult, I made an offer to another adult who was not coerced into accepting, they could have shopped that around. They could have done whatever they wanted to. I would be shocked. I would be shocked if anyone would have paid higher. Like, honestly, I think I'm one of the higher paying people. If this was out of my wheelhouse, if this was out of my budget, one thing that I'll frequently do, I'll say, this feels like it's more a Rusty thing. This feels like it's more a Nick thing. This feels like it's more like whoever it may be. I have referred many people to like, hey, I think this is better for XYZ. But yeah, there's something to be said. Like maybe you go into your LGS and maybe you take in a Moonbreon and they offer you $200 for it or $500, whatever the number is. They're taking into account condition. They're taking into account what their cash flow, and they're making you an offer that you don't have to take. Like, barring them, if I were to outright lie, if I were to say that, oh, well, this is worth $55,000, I'll pay you $54,000. I'm paying you 98%. That would be an outright lie. There should be a little bit of personal responsibility on the seller side, and they should not just blindly trust me. They should do the work themselves, and they should verify it, which in this instance they did. But yeah, so I'm covering two things here, and that I'm covering that I would not do that as an honest, open, transparent person. But to quote, who was it, FDR? Trust but verify. Even though I'm telling you, you have no reason to believe that I'm a trustworthy, honest person. So if I tell you, hey, it's 66.5 is the market value of all these, I'm going to pay you 81.15%, which works out to $54,000. Due to the numbers and all that, you should verify it. You should verify it. But there is something to be said for, obviously, if I send this all into the eBay vault, if everything goes perfectly smoothly, and if I were to sell everything for exactly the last comp, I would make about 12 grand. I would make about 12 grand, but I took a fair amount of risk, right? Not that it's that would be a very high hourly rate if everything were to just insta sell within the next month, not insta, but sell relatively quickly within the next month. But there's something to be said for cash in hand, no government documents being generated. That's something that doesn't have to happen when you purchase a collection or something from an individual. And if the market were to swing, if anything were to happen, it was a fully insured label. There's just it's done and it's over with. Once the collection gets to me, or I guess once the collection doesn't get to me and insurance pays out, the seller is fully paid out and it's done and over with. They could have theoretically consigned it. They could have theoretically sent it to auction. PWCC, Heritage, Golden, you're faced with 15, 20, 25%. Heritage, I think you're faced with multi-months to get this in. The ebbs and the flow of the markets. Sometimes people are paying off debt. Sometimes people are paying off a house, student loan. Sometimes people are wanting to go on a big vacation, wanting to put a down payment on a house. Sometimes the sellers are looking to do something time sensitive with that money. This was 2 days, literally April 15th to April 17th, transaction done, cash paid and over with. Little bit of added intricacies. I guess it will actually be paid in full. It was half paid today, half paid on Friday. Coinbase has limits. This one is specifically being paid out in cryptocurrency. So I guess a little bit of a self-promo, a little bit of a pitch for me. If you are looking to sell your stuff to me, I pay out via PayPal goods and services if you want to sell up front. If you want to ship to me, fully insured label, all that stuff, my cost, if the collection's right, I'm not going to pay shipping if it's like a very ultra modern collection, very bulky ETB cases, things like that. But in the instance of this, $110 expedited label on top of, so that was actually all the cards there. $110 label on top of a $54,000 purchase, perfectly fine. But yeah, if you're interested, I will pay you fully up front. I will pay you PayPal goods and services through my credit card. I will be protected through PayPal, through credit card, just in case something were to go wrong. Obviously, you have to trust me if you're going to send first. This individual did. I have Coinbase daily limits on how much money I can put in. So 26,000 was paid out today via crypto, and then 28,000 will be paid out Friday via crypto. And yeah, I also do PayPal friends and family though. This transaction would not be applicable for friends and family. I think that's way above and beyond. I wouldn't want to get my friends and family taken away from my business account, the ability to send it. My business account can't receive it. But this could be paid out via check. This could be paid out via ACH. Crypto worked very well. It's very quick. Quick aside from my daily limits, getting it in there. So yeah, that is my video for today. If anyone has any questions, comments, if anyone wants to sell stuff, if anyone thinks I victimized the individual who sold it to me, they could have, theoretically, they could have boxed this all up and they could have sent it to they could have consigned it with me through the eBay vault. They took 81.15% today. They could have risked like how much of this is going to actually sell. They could have gone for 96 to 99%, right? In a perfect world, maybe they would have approached me 2 months ago and the 96 to 99% would have had a better chance of bearing itself out because, but hindsight's 2020. Like we know now that the eBay vault is on its way out. Part of my offer, I don't know what the number would have been because I can't go back in time a month ago before I knew the news that the eBay vault was closing. But like I said, Bulbasaur, I bought from him. I bought from Dylan. It was this set. It was this set plus a half art Mario Pikachu. He actually posted on Instagram about it. He didn't post like the number or anything, but I want to say I paid 55, 25, 8. I paid like 12, 13, somewhere in there. It was like 90%. On this collection, 66.5 was the value. A month ago, Crazy Dan, Liquid Dan, looking to just make some vault flips. I might have paid 90% on this. I might have paid, part of me having to pay lower, me having to lower my offer from 90%, crazy high number, not much room there, but still 10% on 60,000 is, you're still looking at 6K in profit, right? With risk. Any one of these cards, someone, what are there? 1,000 of a lot of these cards in PSA 10? If some person who has a big position in these needs money, decides to liquidate, maybe a margin call is coming and something crazy that they're doing, if 10 of these show up on PWCC tomorrow, that's going to hurt. That's going to sting. That's going to hurt my comps. That's going to drive this down. If cards like this, I think are more prone to that. Well, they're less prone to that quantity coming up all at once because the pops are generally lower. But these cards, I feel like the market, at least today, could probably absorb 4 or 5 copies than like a card like this. So it's all an interesting combination of various things that work into it. And ultimately, it's a number, it's an offer, no coercion, no force into taking it. Like, it is an option that you don't have to exercise. It's a number, take it or leave it. Take it or leave it or counter it too. They didn't, but had this individual countered me, I was pretty close to the limits here. Like this is going back to what I was saying earlier, I feel like people won't appreciate the risk that is undertaken by people when they lay out all the cash on the table and then they own the risk, they own the cards, and the one walking away with cash in hand, whether it's your LGS offering you 60%, 70%, whatever the number is, one, you don't have to take it, and two, it's an option that you could exercise or not exercise. So whether you're thinking about selling me Modern Sealed, whether you're thinking about selling me master sets of Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon, XY, whatever era sets, potentially like Near Mint Plus. I'm actually quoting a few collections right now actively that are like big, just raw Near Mint collections done through Collector app, done through TCG Player Values. So feel free to reach out. I will hit you with a number that you are not obligated to take. If you do end up taking it, we can talk about payment methods, all that. I just wanted to work you through how a big deal goes down. What are the mechanics of it? What are the time frames of it? And yeah, that's everything I have. So that was the biggest collection purchase I've ever made, the biggest single transaction I've ever made, $54,000, closed and in the books. These things will be From the time that you see this, a week and a half ago, I sent them to the eBay vault. Hopefully they're going live on eBay tonight. With that, I will catch you all later.